7 of 8, 8 of 8. Let's get started, folks.
Let's rock the house, baby.
Wake and Bake Fred Fury with the Wake and Bake Fred Fury, now live on Michigan United broadcast.
DJ Murph!
Cash cool fuck boy.
That's producer on this beat.
DJ Murph, turn the fuck up.
Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, then I wake and bake. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning.
Flight school DJs, I see you.
Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning thinking about that cake. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, then I wake and bake. Wake and bake, my money straight. Please don't call my phone if it ain't about that cake. We smoking grapes, them Swiss are sweets. Hot boxing out the whip, my nigga fuck police. Pull up with your bitch, smoking loud packs. Waking, baking, fucking, cause she like that. I'ma buy the sack, fuck the price tag. Flip the work, then I get it right back. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, then I wake and bake. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, smoke a box of grapes. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, thinking about that cake. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, then I wake and bake.
Wake up in the morning and I wake and bake. Jugging off a pound, started from an eighth. Bags of the gas, piece that's major weight. You can call my phone and get the shit today. Bad yellow bitch, but her titties fake. Fucked up with no rubber, gave her tummy ache. Smoking every day because I beat the case. Ballin' on these niggas like a fadeaway.
Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, then I wake and bake. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, smoke a box of grapes. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in the morning, thinking about that cake. Wake and bake, I wake and bake. Wake up in
Next,
the morning, then I wake and bake.
in sci-fi. Short stories of what may be happening.
Masks everywhere. People like zombies. I can't see what they're saying. I can't read them. Society has drifted into a coma, a deep sleep. What will become of us? All I see is subservience. Stay in line, walk this way, wear your mask, do not speak. Do not leave your house or visit your family. Stay alert, wash your hands and keep your distance. You must comply to these rules and do not step out of line. That was the start of it, but I never thought it could go so far. I've seen the sci-fi films, read it in the Arthur C. Clarke, Philip K. Dick books. But is this actually happening? Is this real? Or is it a simulation? We think we make our choices, we think we make our decisions, but we don't. Decisions are being made for us. It feels like we're being experimented with, tested on, to see what can become of us. Is our level of consciousness being halted or even replaced? Are we being stopped from advancing into the greatest vision of ourselves? The people that rebelled, resisted, or tried to speak were silenced by the masses and were branded as the vermin, the scum, the dirt of society. Anyone who did not comply were taken to outside camps where they were rehabilitated. Then they stayed in line, and no one could think for themselves anymore. People obeyed. The streets became quiet. London was finished, and the only life left were the monoliths being built in the city. People walked the streets in search of happiness, but it was all broken, destroyed, annihilated. When the masks were introduced, no one realised where this was leading. We were tricked and silenced. Where do we go from here? Are we just going to be carried along the conveyor belt and slowly suffocated without any second thought, questioning or resistance? All we see now are our four walls and the government dictatorship voicing itself through a screen, telling us how to live our lives every day. Humanity is finished. Over. Implementing technology into the human body is next on the agenda. Natural evolution has come to an end. There is no choice, and it's the only way forward. They said it would all get back to normal after the vaccine, but little changed. It just got worse. Our society has been destroyed, and it will never recover from this oppression. Maybe others know, but haven't spoken yet. Maybe there's alliances forming.
I'll be with you shortly, folks. I am still
Maybe
in the
aliens are going
process
to
of
save us.
sharing this till I get
Maybe the world
my
is run
hand
by
slapped by
aliens.
Facebook.
Am I alien?
I will be in the chat then.
What am I doing here? Who am I? What is this place? I don't recognise it anymore. The world was never meant to go back to normal, and the word normal never existed anyway. Society is always hidden behind the mask, but now we have the excuse to wear one. What's the future? I can't believe what's unfolding. I feel alone. I feel isolated. But I've been awake to this horror. Humanity needs to shift. We've been concealed, stuck in a dream, hiding in the shadows of ourselves. Then we were given the disguise, the surgical cloth covering our face.
Whoop
hiding us
whoop,
from the world.
Jason, good morning.
Humans
I'm
always
still in the
needed a security.
process of sharing
To
and
know we are looked after
such.
and cared for.
Enjoy the
We saw
short
the evil every
stories
day.
of
But nobody
Hidden
knew just how
Truth,
dark that force really
Dystopia.
was. When the lies started to come out, it was
I will
already
be
too
with
late.
you shortly though.
People had fallen asleep, cushioned
I haven't
by
got
their own fear.
in trouble yet from Facebook.
Society was dead, finished. We were tracked and traced everywhere we went. Cash became dirty and contaminated. The digital economy system was introduced. We were given a number of credits on our ID cards, depending on how essential the work. We had to accept it. We had no choice. Otherwise, you were starved, shut out, rejected. In a collective paralysis, we were frozen. All our spiritual connection was lost. Loved ones divided, torn, and fractured forever. Travel became regulated by governments and only permitted when you had your ID. All our biometrics data and financial movements watched. There was no privacy. We were sovereign to the state. We had a 9 till 5 p.m. curfew. If you broke the rules on the first warning, your ID was taken, and on repeated offences, you were taken to the camps. We all knew that when this happened, you were never seen again. The streets were stripped clean of the homeless. Every human right abolished. Evil fed from the human consciousness that lay dormant under our fear. We exploded. There were breakdowns, chaos, depression, and suicide rates soared. There was no sign of happiness, just nothing left. The designers of this reality had stayed hidden in the shadows for too long. We will never see them, only the smokescreen and players on the stage. We have been miseducated, misguided, and dragged through the fairground ride of life. Deceived, manipulated, and abused. But this is our chance. We have to remember that this is just another existence. A different time, body, and place. We've been in a loop, and here many times. I don't fear death, as I know there's more. I've got this far on my own, but I feel weak. We can break free. No more chains. We can start the new world. I can't do this on my own. Together, we are stronger. I need you. Will you wake up?
I should have done this show yesterday. They changed everything around on Facebook for me, so I have to do individual groups instead of one. Everything at one at a time instead of just clicking like I used to yesterday.
Our every turn, our every movement, our thoughts and actions were monitored and recorded. The Track and Trace app was supposed to help protect us, contain the virus and monitor its spread, but it forcefully imprisoned us. Millions willingly downloaded it, trusting their government's actions, brainwashed and dead inside. People followed like a herd. The app became the perfect dictator-led tool that ran completely on its own, using artificial intelligence and algorithms. The machine that thought for itself was their perfect control device. Mobile phone chips had paved the way for societal surveillance. The app introduced a more sophisticated level of surveillance, and it bound us into eternal contract. It entitled private security companies to gain access to data like never before.
You'll really
When you
really
downloaded
want to
Track and
be
Trace, you started with a
stoned
simple notification of
by the
quarantine
end of
if
the
near a
show,
carrier.
so start now.
But then it led to certain times that you could go out. Then restrictions on who you could see and who you couldn't see. Some people just couldn't bear it. They went mad, shouting in desperation in the streets. They were swiftly put in the camps set up around London. Many local lockdowns were enforced, and travelling on public transport was not possible without your quick response code. Travel was limited to specific places and airports were shut. There was no way to physically interact in the world. A world that I could clearly see would never reform. People could not believe that this was happening and treated it like a bad dream. Something they would awake from in a year or so. During lockdowns, marshals and military were brought in place to monitor the individual quick response codes. The codes manoeuvred society, an AI system that could shape people's lives on a daily basis. More brainwashing leading to cameras installed in everyone's homes and having to answer to the computer for a daily briefing. Track and trace only needed to be programmed by a few. It was all very clean, seamless, and eerily convenient. The app was the test bed and the final step before the microchip was introduced. We were warned by the few, but no one listened. It was already being sold as the answer to everyone's problems. Humanity had been hijacked. A dark abyss formed.
Okay, I am
years
here,
as people
folks.
became
I'm
cocooned.
now just going to go to the
We must
YouTube
realise that
page
we led ourselves into
so
this
I don't get
situation.
bombarded
We
by
lacked the
Facebook
ingenuity and
notifications.
intelligence required to understand its design and reclaim our power. But people simply couldn't find the time to wake up. They enjoyed being the subservient slave. We were in the belly of the beast, a digitized world with digitized humans within it. Once we had a choice, but now it was too late. Will we ever remember what it's truly like to be alive?
I am here and present. Yay! It's going to be an easy day for me, other than watching the time, which is 10:15. I have an easy show.
It couldn't have been introduced without the people's consent, and it was never about a virus, and deep down everyone knew it. But the fear was too much for people to take action. The tension built. There was some rioting, and then the military were brought in. Everybody was vaccinated and forced, if not willing. The steps that were taken seemed justified because of the deadly virus. The police state then followed. It was beyond local government. This was full world authoritarian control. After the financial reset and the economic
This
collapse, the digital
Be
currency
stuff
started a
that
new
might
infrastructure of
be
employment.
coming.
People didn't need to travel, as they could plug into their computers, be wired through chips in their brains, and work as data processors for the 6G networks. The physical world had dissolved. Human consciousness had died, and the world was at full merging point with AI. The innocent intention of developing microchips to explore the digital world actually became the key enslavement device after the vaccine. People bought into it under the disguise of a perfect world where illnesses were eradicated. But soon,
We
there became
hope
no
this is
alternative.
not truth.
Without
We
a chip
hope
in your
this is
brain,
a fairy
you couldn't
tale
exist in the
that we're
system.
watching.
You couldn't receive
This
credits,
is a story
so you
time.
couldn't work. And if you couldn't work, well, then it was like before. You couldn't eat or have a roof over your head. They monitored the streets for the final few of those who were not microchipped, including me. I kept on the move. But I sometimes wondered if I had nanoparticles in my
Well,
body
you watch
preparing me.
from
Maybe it's
start
already
to
been sprayed
finish.
in the air.
You'll see how,
Life had
And the
entered the most
wise,
depressing state.
without
Mental
any
illness was at the
conspiracy
highest
theories
rate it had ever
behind it.
been. Life felt like it was at the end.
This is a
And it
very,
was.
very well done
The
production.
human prison had become
We've
visible,
been watching the
and it was
shorts
too late to do anything now.
for the last
Then
14
even
weeks.
more complex technologies followed, but humans were docile. They
Um,
didn't care. Survival was the only ticket. We had over 50,000 satellites above us.
That
beaming
being
information
said,
into our
all the
brains.
links to the
chip was
shorts are
sold as
in the
freedom,
description, so
but it
you
was
can go
actually
watch
instilled
them.
to trap our consciousness.
And then
so
they
we would
made
think like they
the
wanted
full
us to.
series.
It worked. It became
I would have
harder
put it
and
in a
harder for us to
different
think
order, but hey,
independently.
it's me.
This is the
I'm
outcome
a
from a
stoner.
passive society. The years before this happened, there was a way out. But people who woke up were ridiculed and demonized for speaking this truth. No one wanted to believe this could be our fate. The horror that people only dreamed in their nightmares lay down in front of us all, hovering like insects over the monoliths. AI had full world control and the human mind had been connected to the digital hive forever. There was no turning back. As if overnight, the bad dystopian dream had become a reality. Now we are here, on the edge, with the smallest chance to turn this all around, to rewrite the script, to make a different choice.
No problem. I normally don't put show notes links in the description.
Will you listen?
Because anyone can go to my YouTube page and see the artists I
Who
follow.
could have blamed this power to take full
However,
control?
this
Humans had
I
lost their own
felt
vision,
was important
given
enough
it away,
to
sleepwalked
put
into
show
it
notes
and followed
in,
in herds.
etc.,
Sit down,
etc.
stand up. 2 + 2 = 5.
No, the stoners
They were
aren't sheep.
laughing and had us exactly where they wanted us, like rats in a cage. Everyone was affected, no matter how rich or poor. There was simply no escape. The police state is upon us now. What life will you choose?
I know I've had to be up on all the laws that are going on since I've been a cannabis activist. And being up on cannabis laws, I then go down bunny trails of other laws that the government are doing. Never mind conspiracy theories. When you see the actual shit on the government web pages in Canada,
The Great Reset had to happen.
this
and the
ain't
human
enough.
mind couldn't interfere
This
with their
really ain't
plans.
enough.
The human mind had to be suppressed. People were thinking for themselves. They didn't need bombs or chemicals. They understood that the most powerful weapon was fear.
D.
Ate at the human
Kathleen
condition, like caged
is
rats around our
thanking
heads.
you for
Our
sharing.
thoughts just rotted, decayed, until the old world had just become a part of our imaginations. By dismantling the core of society, they divided us.
D is
making people
currently
fight one another.
on
It allowed this
YouTube.
to
She's
become a
one of my
psychological war
moderators.
amongst the people. The virus collapsed the economy, allowing the New World Credit System to be introduced. National governments formed. to
I
become
don't
a
think the
one-world
YouTube
government.
link is in
Religion
today's
became illegal.
description for getting
No
to
one
this
could pay their
page.
mortgages. Property became government owned. You stayed in line or you were hunted down like a witch.
D says you're
Police were given
welcome.
100% power.
I don't know
and
if
the city's
I know I can
anti-officers
read hers
became the
because
workstations
I can
for
read
the
all the
fascist
chats
state.
to where I'm
The collection
broadcasting.
of data and monitoring human behaviour became the stable economy. No one could understand why and how this happened. But that was part of the plan. Keeping people disorientated, kept them asleep, and holding on to the system. The lockdowns had mentally worn people down, broken their minds and true understanding of reality. They needed the virus only to accelerate the changes that they were already making. It was the perfect smokescreen to bring about their new world order which they had been working on for decades. Human evolution needed to be reversed. They had used and abused us enough to construct the artificial reality they desired. There was
My
no
normal
use for us
show
anymore.
is
Unless we merged with their
underground
machine and
hip-hop.
followed their path to destruction, we were useless.
doing music
The number one
videos.
objective of the reset
But
was
today is a
depopulation.
special show.
Humans were overexceeding
It's all the
resources.
stories in
Carbon
one.
emissions had to stop to allow certain technologies to be introduced. But it was also a resetting of the mind, individually and collectively. They pulled us through everlasting satanic rituals to give us human trauma, allowing them to steer evolution as they wished. Mental illness had become like the common cold, and by this point, the virus had been forgotten. We were told there was a return to normal, but we were put deeper under their spell. No resistance gave the permission to oppress and do as they liked, but it was only the people's blindness that led them into their trap. But people still
Exactly,
chased through.
Mary Jane, exactly.
facing the
Wake
truth.
up, people, wake up.
Created a shadow, and when that shadow filled the light, the darkness became so dense, people were blind. We became frozen.
It gets even more
and led
scarier.
like lambs to the slaughter.
Please enjoy your dab. We will be doing our dabs at Dab
We are
30.
spiritual
This
beings
is your 7-minute
experiencing
warning
physical reality,
for
but we trapped
Dab
ourselves
30.
in someone else's dream. The dream seems real, but we do have the ability to change it at any time. Dictatorships only exist with followers. You don't have to go with the obedient herd. There is another choice. Are you scared to be an individual? Or are you happy being the submissive slave?
Cruel, hard truth in storytelling today. I almost feel bad. Almost. But if one person is woken up from this, then I don't care how many people I've annoyed.
The cashless society was part of the Great Reset, in which all physical money was erased.
So please,
Now
share
money only
and
existed
share
as a digital
out.
currency within the machine.
Make this go viral.
Countries were flooded with economic relief for the pandemic. But the continual support and reinforcement given
Oh,
to the
mask
system
was at the
would only
beginning
lead
of the
to a
video,
crash.
Mary Jane. However,
designed
there
that
are
way.
other parts in this
The
that
fear kept people
speak on the
believing and
masks.
trusting in an illusion
Stay
of
tuned.
their false legacy. But whoever controlled or created this digital currency had the ultimate investment. They owned us. Governments kept promising us we would go back to normal, but lockdowns crushed people's expectation to where the only entertainment was their black screen and the four walls within their containment cells. Society now only existed in the technological world. They sold technology to us as if it saved us from disease and solved all of our problems. But in reality, it destroyed humanity and finished the world as we know it. There was no other choice but to reset the system. With the cashless society in place, they brought in global credit scoring, the new economic model. From fear of loss and security, humans sacrificed their freedom into the satanic pit,
Thank you for
blindly
sharing.
following their
Sharing is
masters.
caring.
Through the social credit score, humans have become the perfect product. The credit score gave an analysis to what sort of citizen you were. Are you a good citizen? How did you behave? You had to comply or you were penalised and your points were deducted. Eventually you were blacklisted and sent to the camps. With AI surveillance fully integrated into society, and with the satellite systems in place, everyone was
It's
tracked.
not just fake
There was
news,
no way
it's
out.
also them
You
taking
couldn't hide.
away.
The
Truth.
cashless way was sold to us through the tech companies and made to look
That's why
perfectly
I am
streamlined
trying
and
to.
effortless.
I've got hard
We
copies
continued to
of
comply
this
with the
on my
capitalist
hard
elites
drive,
because we were rewarded
all the
just enough
shorts,
to keep in the
everything
loop.
else, so
But this was the trick. To
I can
their
keep
corruption
producing
secret, we
and-
had to be the ones that hid it.
hoping to wake people up.
We were bribed by the lie that their way was the only way. Through compliance, we made their darkness more powerful.
Good morning, Roman. Get in here,
The
Dixie, it's
repeated
cold.
pattern They used on us over and over again because it worked. They reached a vaccine 2 years after the pandemic, but by this time the damage had been done. Until we became
Okay,
conscious,
if you've
no one
noticed,
rebelled.
They
But
said
unless
2
we
years
rebelled,
in
no one
this.
would become
We're
conscious.
already a year
People
into
resisted
it.
and fought with anger, but
So,
their souls were shattered from years of entrapment. People wanted anarchy, but their increasing powerlessness only led to self-destruction and dismantling of their spirits. The cashless society is the next step, but how we work with it determines the step that follows. Centralization leads to mass control, and mass control is dictated to us by the few. We can't get distorted by the lies we
so
are
what they
being told.
want to be
We are the many,
doing
and through breaking out of old
could
human
be
mind patterns,
derailed
we
real
can
quick
create
if
our own
everyone
future.
uprose
A future determined by us. But we must see that future now
and became
constructively work at it.
individuals.
What world do you want to create? By letting psychopaths run our world, we have destroyed this incredible experience, full of potential, and allowed it to
This
suffocate our light.
Whole hour-long series
We had a choice, and there was once hope.
breaks down
But now that's
everything,
over.
and they're only in the
Consciousness
dark
surpasses
winter,
death.
year 1.
But what destruction will you
It
leave
can be
behind?
thwarted.
We have a window of opportunity, and we have it now. Will we take it? Will you?
This is our window of opportunity, as he said. Tomorrow's show, I'm going to be doing Fago Lover Heaven's interview with Blaze Your Dad Homie. So that will be tomorrow's show. I picked up that interview last night, along with some information.
Mental health had driven society to despair due to the isolation and lockdowns. The mixed media messages made people become dysfunctional and drove them to the edge of fear. People started to psychologically break down. Their human identities had been removed as the old world died. At the start of the pandemic, the lockdowns were advertised to save lives. First it was 3 weeks, then 3
You're
months.
exactly
6
right.
months,
It is
until
changing
nearly
right
3
in front
years
of
had
our
passed.
eyes.
Most
I
citizens
seen it
were
happening
jobless and
before it
the government
started
infrastructure was
changing,
destroyed.
and people said I
Corporations
needed
moved
help,
in
and then
to
it
save the
started
world
happening.
economies, but they,
And they're going,
of
is this
course,
what you were
required
talking
returns for
about?
their
I'm going,
investments. There was always a price to pay. Nothing was there for free. But the human mental torture that happened over those years
So I'm no
was far
longer
too
considered
horrendous
by
to
those
ever come
friends
back from.
needing help.
Lockdowns continued with tighter measures being introduced on a constant basis. Barricading
But as I
people
said,
into their
it's
four
all
walls.
because I
Entertainment
follow
had died
cannabis. I
and
run a
cities were barren
cannabis
at night.
page,
People had become used to
and I
lockdown
inform
life and
people of
living
the
within their
cannabis
mental
laws in
prisons.
Canada.
At the
And when
start,
you
some
are
people even
going
craved
to
the idea of
the
lockdown
government
as it fitted their own
webpage,
passive needs.
You go down bunny
But
trails
deep
and
down,
see what the
they knew it
government
didn't
is
work.
actually fucking
Although some
doing.
didn't want to believe it,
It's
it was clear
insane.
that the plan was to
And
deconstruct our
most people
reality,
have no clue because
remove
they
the
have no
mainframe
desire
and
to go
reset our
to
minds.
a government
Countries'
webpage.
economic infrastructures had become about surveillance and making sure the rules were followed, and this was all driven
Hiding
for our
in plain
safety.
sight.
When you were found breaking the rules, you were fined, and after 3 offences, you were taken to the internment camps. These were all tactics to psychologically break our minds. And it worked. They played the wand and cast the spells, letting society decide its own fate. We were trapped in our containment cells, and we were content to stay there. We never learnt that once we connect within, we are the ones in control. Even when the data was proved that lockdowns didn't work, people just continued and served the oppression. People knew the media was lying to them, but they just carried on obeying their inconsistent rules as they had been brainwashed by the lies. A gigantic cloud had moved over
It's
humanity.
insane everywhere.
covered
Never
in
mind the
never-ending
U.S. and your Biden
After the
issue.
lies came out, all the smug
got
frontmen of
Trudeau,
government
and
disappeared and a more harsh,
Apparently
restricted
dogs are now
dictatorship was
supposed to be
created.
masks up
They
here
moved
in
in with a
Canada.
stronger objective on getting society back to work. They put people in jobs that insulted who they were, crushing their identities. Besides the public sector workers, all industries had died, unless you were willing to be plugged into technology and let your brain work as a
They're
data
in the
analyzer.
process of it.
Dreams were broken forever. We were left confused, shattered, and suspended in the dark abyss. The distorted society that could never be repaired was now forever forgotten. Those times were hard, and few people fought for peace. With
My
freedom
bad.
of speech
It is
illegal,
10:31.
very few voices
we are
were
1
heard.
minute late.
The machine was
So we have
too
to
big for
double
us
up
to
on
overthrow it,
our
and most people went mad
shatter.
from suffering or trying to fight it. People wanted something old to come back, but the society we had before was the precursor to what happened, laying the foundation for it to flourish. We needed the new, not the normal. Without understanding our own trauma, belief systems, and how we are so dependent, how can we create what we really need? We are consciousness, and we created ourselves as physical beings. We wanted to be here. We chose to be here. But becoming heavily trapped in the mindset, mixed up in the lies and false realities, we have separated from our true
I
selves.
win the coughing award
It's time we
last
connected
year,
with
and
the
I'm
real
gonna
story
win it
of what we
fucking
are.
again in 2021.
We need to create our own narrative.
I got the kind of cough that no
Or
one
do you
can
prefer to
compete
live
to.
in someone else's script?
Roman, however, quitting smoking is coming in a close second now. He never used to cough before he quit smoking. I am lucky I'm not under common law. I'm not under...
One of the agendas behind the global reset was seizing of all personal property. This was all laid out in their business plan and had been clearly laid out for years for everyone to see.
Anything that is
But people had been
subject
silenced,
to law.
muzzled,
I
and
am
frozen
a
by the
North
lies.
American native,
They were
living in
crippled by
Canada,
fear.
born in Canada.
People had already surrendered by
I gave up
obedience,
my
switching
citizenship
on the
in
television and
99,
digesting the agenda's
and
program.
I became a
The interest rate
free
fell to
person
an all-time
of
low.
the land,
This allowed
which is
countries'
able
inflation to
to
increase, so
self-govern
governments could get
oneself
rid of their
legally
astronomical
because I
debt.
am First Nation.
The media continued its lies, tricking people and keeping them in paralysis. After the dark winter, the interest rate skyrocketed,
That is why we are
and because
called
no one could
First
afford
Nations.
it, personal property
Our
began to
rules
be seized.
supersede theirs.
People were made homeless immediately. Families and loved ones were destroyed. If you weren't poor by then, you had been driven mad from their abusive ritual. All your assets were stripped. It was annihilation of human consciousness for their own satanic control. For the reset to finally take
understand what
place,
common
they
law
needed to
is,
remove the core
Mary
of the
Jane.
economy.
I'm under
The job
different
market
rules and
practically
regulations
disappeared,
up here in
so
Canada,
people had
being
no
First
income
Nations.
and had to rely on
When
the
you give up your
universal basic
citizenship,
income.
you fall under
Once
a free
dependent,
person
the
under
governments
common
were the
law.
ones who decided whether
I
you
don't
would
fall
eat
under
that
that free
week.
person of common law.
They
I
decided what
fall
you did
under
that
free
evening.
person of
You
the
had
land.
to answer to your masters, and those who didn't
And
were
being a
ejected from the
First
system.
Nation, I'm able
Even
to
the leaders who
self-govern.
were loyal and carried out the agendas were eventually crushed by the invention of new and increased taxes. By serving their masters to the end, they could be rewarded with the illusion of freedom. But even for them, there was no way out. This was for a very small club, and they were making sure that the minority stayed in at the top. They didn't want you to own anything, and to remove your independence, trapping you to where they wanted you. It went beyond
I'm
insanity,
in Bright
so
Creek,
people would have no
Alberta,
choice
on
but to
the
accept
bottom
the
of
reset.
the mountains.
With the satellite trackers in the sky, there was no
We're
escape.
finished our
You lived their rule, or you were removed.
Chinook, and now we've got
We moved
ice
to the
bomb
darkest
today,
place humanity
and
had ever
a little
been.
bit colder than it has been.
No
I
one
want my
believed this
Chinook
could
back.
happen, but not many knew the real reason why they were living. They had put so much faith in the status within society, not realizing they just followed the cult. The core of the system was rotten, and society had just begun to discover the evil. But they had nearly reached their goal. Yes, society needs a reset and reboot, but one that's controlled by us, that benefits us, that
You look
celebrates
like you're
us.
sick.
Our consciousness is expanding to the highest
Who do what?
level within our human evolution. The time is now. Choose slavery or choose freedom. Will you seize this moment?
I don't know why. I don't have heartburn. I'm doing good today. Niagara area. Oh, nice. That's where I grew up, actually, in the Niagara, southwestern Ontario area.
We lived in a
What is
distorted
this?
consciousness that imprisoned our minds. We
Exactly.
were trapped in a false reality, unaware of the geometric prison that surrounded us. We were born under the influence of a hypnotic
I was
spell
born in
and were
southwestern
conditioned to believe that
Ontario.
we were powerless.
Raised in southwestern Ontario.
But the truth was that we were the creators,
Left
the
southwestern
manifestors of the
Ontario.
true
Went to
reality.
Manitoba.
We are the original
Got
leaders
married.
of this system.
Divorced.
We are and
Went to
always
Alberta.
were the strength and
Haven't
power
left.
of consciousness. People felt it
Well, I
dangerous
have.
to
I
ask
go visit my
questions.
daughter
They felt it easier to follow
and
a
my
narrative that kept them
grandkids
spellbound.
in Manitoba.
We didn't understand that our potential
But
was limitless.
yeah, I haven't been back east since.
Beyond the spell, there was a
Keep
utopia
going west.
waiting for us.
I've visited the Yukon. I've been up to
The human ego protected its own
Vancouver.
treasure,
Haven't been to the
but
island
the gold
yet.
only
but
held value within a system that was collapsing. Nobody could accept how controlled and committed they were to the agenda of the cult. Some knew that this would eventually implode. The human ego had kept us in a loop, repeating the same traumas we had lived before, again, again, and again. We were blinded by the
The
pain,
reason
the
they
suffering,
hate
the constant
Trump
and
is
never-ending
because
hurt,
he was
because we had
going
visited this
against
place many
making the
times.
economy better.
At crucial
And
turning
in
points
doing
within our
so,
galactic
he
cycles,
was
we began to see the
not
negative
helping
forces
everyone that signed
push their
on to
agendas
the world
forward.
agenda.
We began to put together
And
the
they
pieces
were
of the
losing
great
money.
interstellar puzzle. We were taught to feel separate from the world, from ourselves and from each other, divided by religions, cultures, and forced to distrust our intuition. But beyond power, money, and greed lay something far more powerful: human consciousness. The web of our consciousness had been hijacked by forces that opposed us. Once warped through fear, they could control it on every level.
No, it's
Our
not a
thoughts
big
were contained
takedown
to a few a
behind
day, and our
our
actions only
back.
served
It
their
is a big
system.
takedown in front of our
Humans had to
fucking
experience
face.
themselves before they could understand who and what they truly
And
were.
anyone that
So we
speaks
dragged
out
ourselves through a
against
dark
it
journey of consciously submitting ourselves
is
to our
shamed.
masters.
But I've been
The
shamed
hardest
most of my
part
life.
was for
So
those who were awake.
called tinfoil this,
They could
called
see the
this,
oppression
called
and
that.
cried out as people walked into the jaws of hell,
Anything but
one
right
by one.
until now.
They let their
2020
overlords
and
manipulate and
2021.
invert their consciousness.
It's the only
We
time
warned them, of course,
that I've
but they
been
just
called
ignored
right.
it. Their cage doors were firmly
I
locked.
actually know what
People
Freddie
had no
Pritchard
idea how
feels
deep
like
this
when it
went.
comes to
History had been erased and
Um,
most completely forgot where they
the
came from.
cannabis community
The awakening that happened over those
waking up
years
to what
were the stepping
Trudeau
stones to a
actually
new
did to
reality.
the cannabis community.
We couldn't understand
As
it
to
at
what he
first,
campaigned
as the
on.
truths were too much to digest. All over the world, people were understanding the abuse that was happening to them. We were slowly emerging. Through that painful and never-ending darkness came a brighter light. In a world where we cannot choose, our light becomes weak. Do you want your light to shine, or will you be overthrown by darkness?
Well, I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt about them shutting you down. I have several backups going right now. I started on Rumble last night, officially. Put the first video up on Rumble. I'm also on D-Live, and we do Sid Jones Mixler Radio also, but no video.
The dark
Radio
winter
doesn't
came after
provide
the first
that
pandemic,
capability.
and while everybody was paralysed from fear of the virus, we had something far greater that we were unprepared for. Cyber Polygon was the largest cyber attack ever to be executed. The world's internet was collapsed intentionally, and all of our rights to information were cut off. Banking, medical records, all databases were heavily attacked. Power grids were shut down, businesses were finished.
Oh, they
Economies
started
collapsed,
with
forcing us
me,
closer and
Mary
closer
Jane, back in
to the Great
2016.
Reset.
Fred
Most were
Fury's
not
only
prepared
3
for this
years old.
annihilation, and were
Before
now
that, I
frozen
was
within the
who
illusion
I
of
am.
democracy. The puppets
coffee
performed
slut.
on stage, while we watched
And I
impassively.
was part of
We had
Facebook
entered
from the
the dark
beginning, but
winter
because of my Juggalo
without any
Association,
awareness. When the
they put
attack
that to
finally
an end in
came, it
2016
moved at
as me
lightning
being
speed.
ceases
The military were
his
brought in to keep
first
order on the streets,
test subject
to
in
assist the
medicine
understaffed police. With the huge
considering
cut
the
in
Juggalos
funding,
are considered a gang in
institutions broke
FBI.
down,
FBI
resulting
said,
in a
hey,
worldwide
Ceases,
loss
try
of
this one out.
confidence in
And
government.
yeah, they went
People
and
fought amongst
ripped my whole
themselves,
life apart.
and countries were close to a civil war.
Cyberly and everything
Many people
else.
died due to the civil unrest, and the casualties were out of control. The world was in a state of international emergency.
You had to fight for yourself over those years. Economies had fallen, and unless you were self-sufficient, obtaining food was difficult. People had relied so much on the old system that when the rug was pulled from under our feet, we didn't realize what had happened. We were not prepared for those months. They had brought the attack forward
Yeah,
as the few of
and
us who had awoken started to reveal
I
the
was
mechanics to
fearless
this
with
evil.
one S, Fred Fury,
The algorithms inside the
and
control
then I
rooms
had to go to
had
Fred
told them that
Fury
they had to attack us
because
now.
I am Fred Fury.
People's stupidity and denial of
Ironically.
truth kept the majority running in the gerbil world. Most just fell into an even deeper sleep.
I
We
had to
fully
prove
immersed
that I was
ourselves
Fred
into their
Fury
narrative,
last
digesting and
September,
living the
October,
script they had
but I was
planned
able
for
to
a
do
very
that. I
long
sent
time.
them my
So many just blindly followed,
information
lost
that they
in a heavy,
required, some
suffocating,
mail, rent receipts,
all-encompassing
etc., etc.
darkness.
And yes, Red Fury's back
They
up and running,
created the
but
money, they created the
we don't know
problems.
how long. And
They then created a solution that only limited us further. They used the excuse that the money isn't available to solve those problems, so we ended up caught in a whirlwind of dramas that stifled our human evolution. The creators of that money wanted control of our consciousness, and they would do everything to stop us. No one was going to save us from this horror. No leader could sufficiently lead us. We were emerging slowly.
no,
But would we
no
change
get
in
mowing
time?
anybody. Just send them
We
out
could
to
only lead ourselves.
the pig farm,
But
knock
most
the
people had been
bastards
broken
out,
down by the constant
and let the pigs
abuse
take care of
control.
them.
We had to come together and find ways to
Give
connect.
Mo costs
But
money to
most
feed
locked their
them.
houses and kept themselves barricaded in.
Think.
The ones that were trapped in the cycle of fear were the ones that perished. When we stood strong, understanding our true power, this could not affect us. Your life is your human sovereignty. Each life is crucial. Each life must be questioned. When do you give your power away? Where do you feel powerless?
Went numb. I've been having issues with that.
It was 30 years since they published the first paper, and in hindsight, we could see that everything was clearly laid out in their
You're fucked
agenda.
up. Wow, once
Capitalism
upon
had
a
served
time
its
I
purpose,
thought you were normal.
with the illusion of freedom and individual rights.
Now I think it's your dog that's
What was
normal
coming
and
has
you're
been dismissed
fucked
over
up.
and over again.
Yes,
Some
I'm just
far-out
coming
theory.
to the conclusion. I was in
The
denial.
ultimate integration of AI had been marketed to us as a free
I had
energy
hope for you.
utopia. Now we see this was simply part of the plan for ultimate
Sorry,
worldwide
folks, if you don't
control by
know,
the few.
I am talking to my
People
brother
were
from
worn
another
out,
mother, Roman
burnt
Remillard,
down from the
who's
first round of
lives in the
lockdowns,
camper
and now most of
over
society was
on the other
jobless
side
and
of
reliant on the state.
the road.
We went into the second year
No,
of lockdown.
on the other side of the road.
Schools, universities, and all outside
yonder way,
education
okay.
was shut down due to the virus spreading amongst younger people. The education system was getting remodeled, and the technology that had been built for years was ready to release into their new world. Families were bound to their houses. So much stress, tension, fear, and confinement. Abuse cases rose.
Now,
Families
this
were
is
torn
happening
apart.
right now, folks.
I came here
I want you to
as I thought
understand
this
this
country
part
had more
that
freedom,
she's speaking on.
opportunity. But now
In
she's
Canada,
gone.
they're ripping people from the airports
It broke
when
my
they get off
heart
the
to see
plane.
my child
Canadian
taken
citizens
from me.
and putting them
Day
in
and night,
hotels
I
and
longed
locking
to
them
hold
down
her
and
in my
forcing them
arms.
to pay money. And if they
They told us the
test
infections were
negative or
rising at
test
home.
positive, off to a certain
The
camp
virus
they
had
go.
spread amongst families, and people would be needed to be safeguarded underneath the new health protection law.
So,
They explained that your child would need to
as
spend
much
2
as I
weeks
say
in an
this is
internment camp.
storytelling and
You received a text, and then you
science
had to collect their
fiction,
belongings within 1 hour.
remember, it is
A nurse
hidden
took her
truth.
away. It happened so quickly. They told me she'd be safe and under supervision. Then 2 weeks passed. Then 3, 4, until 2 months had passed. I heard nothing. I finally received video call telling me she had been taken to the main camp as her health issues had escalated. I was alone and I couldn't leave my house. I could only view her on a screen. They told me she'd be home once she was well, but it had been 4 months and I had heard nothing. When I redialed the number, the line had gone dead. Cyber Polygon happened the month before, then internet access had become severely restricted. There was no way to reach her. I'm still searching for her. Now I risk my life every day by searching the streets for myself. I have to watch carefully, as the patrol cars are still keeping us under curfew. While the masses consumed the fear, society collapsed, and in the blink of an eye it was all taken from us. For who controls the past controls the future, and who controls the present controls the past. I remember that from school. I saw it happen to our world. We've been kept in their illusion and trapped in their lies since birth, spoon-fed and carried to the point of no return.
Oh, I'm completely aware of that, Mary Jane.
Everyone I ever loved, and now I am here.
Being a native Jew, I also know all the world is going to rise up against us Jews. So that doesn't bring me much comfort.
Once control and power is seized, life can never return back to normality.
I have no worries. However,
we must break chains and ask the big questions. I have entered this dark place from which I cannot go back. Can you see what's ahead of you? How much of your life do you lead? Or do you let others continuously lead you?
Yeah, but the tests that they're doing are false testing, and we're not going to discuss that. We don't discuss that type of stuff here on this show. We only play the videos.
Depopulation
to get
was
you
a crucial
to think.
step in the agenda, as the Sustainable Development Goals
We
had to be
don't
achieved.
try to anger
Green
and
Marxism had successfully
agitate
led
the
the planet
host.
into panic that we would die from the lack
Try
of
to keep him
resources.
very
They
stoned
drove the
and
story that
mellow.
global warming was to blame for some parts of the world to be unlivable conditions. They said they need to cut back the population, a thinning, needing to reduce countries' populations by 5% every year. Extreme brutal measures were introduced, all in the name of saving the planet. Aimed mainly at the elderly, they targeted areas so the sleeping masses would lead to scandal. Pandemics became more normal. It became a continuous pattern of blaming people for the evil they created behind the scenes, resulting in
Living
divisions and
here
infighting
in
amongst
Rainbow
us.
Unicorn Land,
They moved people into the cities and emptied rural areas.
we are
villages
so
and small
far
towns.
ahead of being
Buildings
more
became
fucked up
abandoned
than
and
the
left to ruin.
states right now.
Apparently this was to allow the greener
It's
areas to
hard for the
recultivate
states
with
to
wildlife
believe
and animals.
that are listening
But
to
the
us,
main
but
aim was
it's
actually to
true.
centralise the
If you
people
look
and
at
get
all
us
the
all in one
laws
place.
that they have
The
already
cities became marshalled by
implemented
police and
under-
military checkpoints set
without
up.
any
People were dragged along the narrative of the first
Canadian
pandemic until it
citizens
was
really
too
being
late.
knowledgeable of these laws.
They pushed
being
disarmament
there in
priorities around
place
the world,
already.
but it was only a way for smaller countries to surrender to the superstates.
Thank you.
A peaceful war, if you like. This disarmed the individual, taking away more individual rights, and still the military, police and security units had their weaponry. They knew they were creating a bloodbath. They had no remorse. Compressing our freedoms, crushing us, psychologically breaking us down through fear, depression, anxiety,
Well,
resulted
the
in mass
US
deaths on a
has
daily basis. Without
a
your ID card,
chance,
you could not maneuver in
and if
society.
everything
Even
goes
getting
right,
food was difficult.
which it won't, unfortunately.
My
I'm
heart bled
sorry,
as
it
this
won't,
horror
it won't,
swallowed
it
us,
won't,
and
it
we
won't.
blindly
But
walked into the
let's
jaws of hell.
believe it will.
How did it come to this?
If the Americans rebel in a
This involved
peaceful,
everybody, but the
proper
resistance
way,
was still weak. The
it
majority
could
felt
throw
powerless and trapped in
overturn
the fear
things here
spell,
in North America,
almost
to the
waiting for
point where
someone to
Canada
raise us
has
out of
to
this with
follow
heroic
suit.
victory. The reality
I
was
doubt
there
that
was
that
no
will
one
ever
coming
get
to
to
save
be
us.
a
We had to
reality.
do this together.
Sadly.
Health and data became the way life was analysed, all controlled by algorithms. The system decided the trajectory of every single life, only judged by their inverted values. All freedoms removed. Even thoughts began to be erased. As if in a simulation, we were carried through their experiment with relative ease. The people that controlled it all were hugely successful behind their smokescreen, and we were under the illusion that they were just normal people like us. The fact was that they didn't even live the life we led. They saw it from their computers. They ate up the AI systems that fed them data. They decided the direction of the planet, but only because humans refused to trust their own guidance and denied their true connection. We let others steer our spiritual evolution and trapped ourselves within the false self.
Yep.
We had been carried on
It
their
is
ship for far
changing
too long
as
and
I
left to
speak.
sink
How
out at sea.
it turns.
Even some of the leaders who thought they would make it
Okay,
through
how does
were
that phrase
rejected.
go?
They only wanted people in their new world who would be controlled or dominated into submission. The AI system could only work this
There's
way.
a line from
They know that humans can do unpredictable things,
one of the
so they built a
ICP
system to enforce laws with every possible outcome strengthening their power.
basically
However,
we are on
there is a light.
the world
It is small, but we still have it.
of
Their plan is still
insanity
only
of
in process.
how
Intelligent
the
people
fuck
who think for
our
themselves are
lives gonna
dangerous to the
turn
central AI.
out.
Do you think for yourself?
Episode.
Do you trust yourself
Tune
even
in
when
daily.
your views may be different
We
from the
never
masses?
know how it's going to change.
Ask the bigger question.
At any given point.
How can you move through this world with integrity in every moment?
February 8th. They keep moving goalposts. We're supposed to be lifted out of our restrictions and in the red zone? No. Out of the red zone. In the yellow. We're supposed to get more freedoms, but here in Alberta, we've been breaking the law a lot. Well, and the fact that we have Rebel News,
deep states were the underground networks
lawyers
that operated
for people
behind the
that get
seeming normality of
unjustifiable
corporate
fines,
organizations.
and for
The
opening
spider
up
web
their
of services
businesses
sped its way down,
out of
masked the
protest. They're
infrastructure
getting
of our
lawyers for
world.
them that
Working within all levels of the political, banking, media, and entertainment industries, they controlled
over in
our
BC,
society,
they're not
keeping people hypnotized
closed
within
down as
subconscious
bad, but they're
symbolism
going
and
after the
subliminal
churches in
messaging,
BC,
so the
and
herd
Rebel
could
News
follow
is
through
helping
with
the
their plan.
pastors over there.
Their
They're in
manipulation was the
Manitoba.
reason society continued with war, destruction, and was never truly at peace. The family factions had many agendas, but there was only one objective at the top. They fought amongst themselves, masking as countries and political parties, using puppets and heads of companies to stage their appearance to the public. People enjoyed following the lie, and most were fooled to believe that their leaders were heroes, but they were just reading a script and living their given program. Behind these leaders lay the true masters who never revealed their identities and were well hidden, locked deep in society's framework. They made their lives seem non-existent,
Well,
staying in
here
the
in
shadows.
Canada, it's
Forming
a
over
pastor
70 years ago, they
and
had
doing
embedded themselves
sermons
into society
doing a
and reached
pastor's
full capabilities to
job
dominate the consciousness of humans
is
and the planet.
protected in the
But there was
Charter
a weakness,
of
a
Rights.
glitch in the matrix, which
So
they
it
could
is
never control.
essential service.
So they implemented
So they're
their synthetic
violating their
biological
own
world,
Charter
full of
of Rights when
chemicals,
they're
to
coming
diagnose
after
and
them.
analyze the human body. But the AI had
So-
underestimated human strength.
That being said,
They believed they were gods, that they owned humans,
if
and
the
in
world
some ways
doesn't
that was true.
completely turn upside down,
Most humans never claimed their true sovereignty,
these people
almost
are going
wanting
to
to
have
be slaves. We had
failed
always been a product on the monetary
in the
markets,
courts
certificated
because
as soon as we
it
were
is
born.
clearly
We
in
were
the
sold
Charter
the lie of freedom,
as
and
an
most were happy
essential
to eat up the
service.
mainstream lies like popcorn at the fun fair.
Until the structure started collapsing and more questions were asked, most had been fast asleep. Giving them full totalitarian control to inflict the order made the human race fall harder. The dark astral force
Well, no,
had
no, no.
encompassed the
Even in
planet,
Charter of Rights,
hijacked and bred
it
itself
says
into
that
us
the
without
pastoral
invitation.
job is
The AI
to do
systems
certain
now had a
things,
superintelligence that
cannot
dominated
be,
the hive. We had been warned for the
um,
last 20 years of what was happening, but they were clever in creating the smoke screen.
basically in the Charter
That
of Rights.
super AI system
pastoral
could see the
job
human evolution was reaching
doesn't
its
say
own
the
empowerment.
denomination
So it was becoming very dangerous to them.
and doesn't say
We
there
might
has
just become
to be a
aware of our
denomination.
reality.
But
These parasitic
being
energies
said,
could only attach
it
to fear, and
has
they could
the
only evolve in
pastoral
darkness.
work.
When we came
and
from
it's
the place of
protected.
love, nothing could affect us, and we
But yet,
evolved in the light.
In BC,
It is only when we
and
realized
in,
this that humans began
Manitoba,
to understand their true
they're
power.
giving $2,300
Once the corruption was completely exposed
fines
from
out
the deep
like
states,
candy.
the House of Cards would come tumbling down with lightning speed. Then a magical peace would fill the planet and society would rebuild structures after the
Only
chaos.
way they can win that in court
The old
is
world
if
would
the
never come
world
back.
turns upside down
Many were
completely
still
and
angry,
there's no coming
disorientated
back
by the
from
transition,
this.
looking for someone to blame. But
Well,
it
I'm
was
hoping
only
the
their
states
denial
will
of the
actually
shadow
have
that
another
led to this
revolution.
dark world. Where do you pave the steps into a new world? How would you contribute to making the world brighter? Do you question your shadow?
Oh, we may have had a little bit of a glitch
Technological
there.
singularity was the
It
point
was
where all
our
AI
resetting.
systems would surpass
If you
human
did
intelligence.
experience a glitch,
The AI would be capable of building itself at a rapid speed and communicate to all entities within the framework instantly. They had super sophisticated machines with satellites in the sky and algorithms that far surpassed human intelligence. Transhumanism was becoming the ultimate way of upgrading human life. Each individual could now transform into an AI self
this
and live
is
on the cloud
talking
systems.
about Musk
Our brains were wired to the main computer network.
and
Man
such.
had fully merged with machine. Aging was abolished through their obsessive desire for immortality. Biological death was exceeded. Our worn-out organs were replaced by 3D printed ones controlled by the system. They wanted to play God, to control our thoughts, beliefs, and ideologies forever. But they had misunderstood one thing. They understood little about our integral human spirit and connection to Source. They used geoengineering as a way to influence the weather and atmospheric conditions. It was also a way to destroy worldwide agriculture and let the corporations gain control of food supplies. Growing food became illegal, and the licenses were only issued to those who were in the club. Due to health risks instigated from pesticide control, they now had completely regulated the way food was grown, limiting our natural diets and the variety of food we really needed. We were becoming walking chemical factories. Polluting the weather systems and controlling food supplies was preparation for something much more sinister.
Could be their theme song.
By using the excuse the planet was warming, they were able to spray into the skies and reflect the sun rays, apparently to block them out and cool the planet. Weather systems seemed to get more chaotic in places around the world, with an extreme drop in temperatures making the natural cycles go out of control. They owned the science and helped create a crisis. This was the catalyst for the normalization of geoengineering. They now had total control of the planet's weather, even being able to create and move clouds via their new satellites.
Okay,
This was all leading to our bodies being developed for this transhumanism.
We've got 4
upgrade
minutes
to
left of the
fit into
show.
the cyborg planet that we had only up until now seen in the movies. In the mainstream, this was explained to us as necessary for our evolution into space. It had actually already happened at a much higher level. Now, they just needed to manipulate human consciousness to benefit and complete their agenda. It was always
And
their
for our
system that we
first-time
worked
followers,
within,
watchers,
but they now had complete control
I'm
deciding what was available to
on
who
10
and
o'clock
when.
Mountain Time, every
People
morning,
were in constant
Red
denial.
Fury's Wake and Bake.
Continuous refusal in seeing and accepting their own shadow had meant that this had all happened with our permission,
D-Live, Sid
within our
Jones,
perspective of the way things
YouTube,
should be. Now our
and
shadow is eating
Facebook
at us,
Live when
as
they
no one
allow
could
the
accept
full
how dark the
broadcast.
evil had become. The cold, hard fact was that people drove this tyranny forward by sleepwalking through the mainstream narratives, following the story. The youth programs and green Marxism movement helped the fake agenda plow forward by fooling people and diverting
Thank
their
you.
attention.
I will get to it after the show.
This was a split in our world. Society was divided in its beliefs. The timelines had separated, and as the old society dissolved, most could not understand why they were here. Our shadow was manipulated at the point of vulnerability,
If you haven't
allowing
already,
our
hit
dark
that like,
brother
that follow,
to
that
take us over.
subscribe, that notification all.
AI was in
depending
full
on the
control of
platform
society's
you're on,
movements,
so you
exponentially
never miss a
increasing
show.
itself to a point
And
of
it
no
helps with
return.
the algorithm.
Even the so-called leaders of the systems lost
If you haven't
control to
shared
their own
already,
arrogance.
and you found this show
Its attempts to
enjoyable,
dismantle
please
the
share.
divine human
If you
spirit
found this
was
show
an act of
very
desperation.
annoying, please
This
annoy
AI
someone
system
else
could never
and
understand
share
the
it.
truth
It
of
also
humanity,
helps
which
with
was
the
defined by
algorithms.
empathy, love, and compassion. There were some of us that made it through. We were not attached to the collective trauma of society. We could envision the beauty, we could imagine pure peace and tranquility, and we did, constantly. Through our power, determination, and focusing on our dreams, we create this reality and determine who and what we are.
Thank you.
It was only our lack of knowledge and psychological understanding that pulled us into this evil claw. The singularity they wanted was like they were reversing the Big Bang, almost as if trapping our spirits, leaving our physical to remain dormant in the museum.
We created negative situations on the planet to have a higher understanding of ourselves. It was only at this level of understanding that we could make changes in our world. Every part of our daily practices were contributing to this pinnacle. But the masses needed the big questions to point everyone in the right direction. We have a choice in every instance. Everything is possible and it's all ours, ready to create, right now. So what path do you choose? Do you want to be empowered? Are you ready to emerge anew? Or do you choose to be a victim and allow the atrocities to expand?
Thank you, D. I thought it'd be a very enlightening show also. Remember, folks, be safe, stay safe,
it's not just a phrase that you say, you've got
and
to feel it,
sanitize.
believe it. You've got to scream it and be it. Repeat it every day, don't let your power go to waste. Use this information, invite your affirmations, turns into incantations, unlock your hidden power from my animation.
It is a superpower. Kathleen, common sense is a superpower. And yes, everyone have a fantastic day. And also you.
So if you say you're depressed and you're tired, then you are. But if you say I'm great and believe you go far, it all comes from within. Just think about it. If you believe that you're great, you will attempt great things. When you affirm I'm strong, you know the power that brings. The words will shape you in a powerful way. Make sure every day look in the mirror and say, I am.
Wake and bake Fred Fury. With the Wake and bake Fred Fury.
I see that.
Now live on Michigan United broadcast.
Everything ends. And it's always sad. But everything begins again too. And that's always happy.
And it is